What's up, guys? It is Flashwing. Today is an awesome video for you guys because this is the very first podcast interview I've ever done on my channel. And it could not be with a better person. I'm going to be interviewing a good friend of mine who, no joke, has lost over 130 pounds within probably the past year. All right, so tonight we got our very first podcast interview. I'm looking forward to this tremendously, and I want to welcome my brother from another mother, a guy who has been a long time supporter of my channel, probably since the very beginning. I mean, a guy who has tremendously changed himself, his life. It's unbelievable with the transformation. Enrique, welcome to the channel officially. You've been on the sidelines doing comments and advice and talking to me personally, and now you're part of the channel.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's an honor and a pleasure. Like, I saw you when you first debuted as Flashwing, and I reached out to you, and you were one of the few vloggers that replied back, and I was like, what? So that was pretty cool, and then we kind of established a rapport. So now I just see you as a brother, and, you know, I don't always comment a lot now because with kids and life, but I always see all your content. I just don't have a chance to always type in, and I love the way you've evolved with your cinematic skills and going full balls to the wall with the track suit, which was pretty cool, and the track days.
Yeah.
I like the way you kind of dip your toe into things you weren't familiar with, but you were like, fuck it. And that's what this life's about, man. Just pushing ourselves, you know. On my run tonight, I saw this lady had a shirt on and it said, what is it? What did she say? Sweat? Or she said something like pain is something leaving your body. I forget the exact quote, but it was great though.
Yeah, like pain is weakness leaving the body.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, and it is. Once you get past that threshold, once the pain leaves, then you're like, okay, I can do this, you know? So absolutely, man. And, you know, thanks for having me on.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, and again, I mean, I think you were like you got to be, what, like first 50 subs? First 100 for sure.
I've got under 100, but I haven't put any content out in months, and I'm not one of those big vloggers. I mean, I started it for my son because he was like, hey, Dad, you know, I see you have a motorcycle, so I got the GoPro and stuff, and I just used to make the videos for the kids, and they get a kick out of it, so... You know, now that I've lost this weight, I can actually ride the bike the way it's supposed to, the way it was engineered to.
Yeah.
And my wife doesn't know, but I've got it up to 130. I've done 130 a few times. And last night I did like 120, 125. And it's amazing, man. I mean, I'm not like holding on for dear life. I'm like, yeah, I can go faster, but I do. Then there's like that rational part that says, and this is where shit goes south. So
right.
I kind of like dial that back and just enjoy it. So yeah, I can actually wear like a large Alpine Stars leather jacket.
That's pretty incredible. That is really incredible because they definitely don't make big stuff at all.
Nope. It fits. And I read a review and the guy said after 2 rides it fit me great. So that was about pretty close what I got to about 2 rides.
Sweet.
And I got some Joe Rocket pants and like a size 33, 34, something like that.
Incredible.
So yeah, I mean, I think I haven't been this size since high school, so it feels great, man.
All right, well, probably the one thing I know everybody's going to want to know is tell us what you have been doing for over the last year. What have you accomplished?
So I tell people whatever you do would get your heart rate up, right? So I started walking, and I used to run when I was in the military, like 23 years ago when I was overseas. And that was the best feeling for me. So you have to find what you like and what you can live with long term. So some people go, well, this gets the weight off. Don't think like that. Think what you're going to enjoy, even the days when you go out, wherever, the gym, outside, and that'll get you through. That'll carry you. If you try to do whatever, quote unquote, is, you know, what people recommend, you're not going to hang in. It's not going to work. So I tell people, get your heart rate up. So I started with walking, you know, after a long hiatus and not doing anything.
Now, how much did you weigh at that time when you started walking?
My highest I ever weighed was 365.
Okay.
And then I really got serious at the 330 mark. So that was February of 20. No, that was, well, yeah, that was February of 2016, thereabouts. March 2016, something. Yeah, March of February is when I really just, my doctor would always, and I have a great doctor, and he was real supportive. And he said, look, you got to really change things in your life. And I've been hearing that all, and I used to always kind of take shortcuts like eat good today, fuck up tomorrow. And then I realized it has to be every day. You got to put a whole bunch of good days together. I mean, you can eat what you want. You just can't eat the quantity or the volume. And then you gotta pay that man. You got to pay the guys. You got to go out there and you got to sweat your ass off. You got to have some pain. And I used to always think, oh yeah, six packs are made in the kitchen. That's true. But you know what? Exercise is a big part. And anybody who tells you it's not, they're fucking lying. It's bullshit. Like if you don't go out there and get, now the flip side of that coin, if you eat horse shit or garbage and then you exercise, it's just like doing nothing. So they both complement each other. You got to have a good diet. And by the word diet, I mean just eating, I give up processed food, beer, carbonated stuff, refined carbs to a point. When I say that, like I'll have a Dunkin' Donut Munchkin versus a donut because, that's 70 calories versus 400. And, once you start seeing basically all the processed stuff is bad, I would say, start out simple, right? So lean meats, chicken, steak, fish, veggies, and I have rice here and there. I just don't go crazy. And I've learned you can have whatever you want, just in small quantities. We were designed to eat stuff that fits in your hand, portion size. And, your brain, you get the fat brain. The brain tells you, oh, no, we used to eat like 8 slices and beer. And literally, like, my doctor used to always say that my decisions are killing me. And I used to always laugh. And now I understand really everything you put in your mouth, if you're not at least thinking about it, you're really going to hurt yourself long term. And then I'm 40. I just turned 42. And some girl in the liquor store was like, oh, I thought you were 25. I always go, when they ask me my ID, hey, what do you think I am? And they go, are you going to get mad? I go, no. And one girl was like, I think you're 27. I think you're 30. I go, I'm 42. Wow. And they're like, what?
Wow.
Yeah, my doctor said I put like 22 years back on my life just losing the weight. And I did my first 5K in May of last year, and I was down 60 pounds at that point. And I was 280 down from 330, so whatever the math is.
And you did a 5K at 280 pounds. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I did the 5K, and I finished it in like 56 minutes, almost an hour. I stopped and walked, and whatever, it was like 10,000 people. But, and I asked my dad, he used to do marathons in the 70s and 80s. And I remember watching a movie with my dad called Running with Michael Douglas, and he played a character called Michael Andropoulos. So I asked my dad a few weeks ago, I go, hey, Pop, remember that movie we watched? And he's like, I can't believe you remember that movie. So I watched it again like 2 weeks ago, and it's really an inspiring movie. If you haven't seen it, even if you're not a runner, just watch it, because there's a guy basically who quit everything he ever started, and he's an alternate on the U.S. Olympic team. And I won't give too much away, but it's a really good movie just about the human spirit. And, I always tell people, whatever you start, just, there are going to be days you don't even want to work out. That's cool. I don't even like to say work out because it sounds regimented. Just every day, try to do something that pushes you, or where you can, because in the end, you got to look at yourself in the mirror, just something that you can go, okay, I walk those steps. Or I don't know, this is another thing. I did strategies prior to losing the weight loss. Like I'd park super far away from my job. I haven't taken the elevator in like over a year and a half. I mean, I've taken it if I have like cargo at work. Other than that, like I haven't taken the elevator in about a year and a half. I'll walk or I'll ride the bike if on recovery days from running. So, and my kids are like, my one son said, hey, Dad, because they call me Daddy Clump, because it was that Michael Scott episode where he was trying to. So I always tell my kids, don't ever judge people with the way they look.
That's
so we
hard.
Don't use the word. Yeah, we don't use the word fat, because I think that's just like calling somebody a racial slur. I really do. I go, everybody has their own battles. You don't know anything about that person. I just don't judge people in the way they look. But I go, when I was Daddy Clump, so my daughter and my son go, remember you were Dad Clump and you couldn't even hang out and toss the ball, and now you're not Daddy Clump. So my kids know that, and they're big Office fans, so they get that reference. But Man, I just thank my doctor and my wife and my kids for like just waking me up and being patient with me because I should have been dead. I was working like two jobs. I worked well, I worked the one job, the 12 hours for almost 9 years. So I worked the two jobs for almost 7 years back to back. So you're talking 21-hour days for like 7 days a week. I had a blood pressure of 160 over 100. Um, it was just bad. I was on a CPAP machine. I was
Hmm.
on all kind of meds, and now my blood pressure averages between like 115 to like 120, 121 over 70, 60s.
Huge difference.
Yeah, and my resting pulse is 55. So I looked that up, and that's like excellent. I'm not an elite athlete, and I'm not trying to be. I'll never be because I'm not going to be a 160. I know that if I get to 180, 190, that's my goal. I'm like 210 now. My wife's like, "You look great the way you are." A lot of people already thought I was under 200. It's funny,
Well, when you put on
but
a lot of that muscle, I mean, it's
yeah,
the weight aspect is always so relative because it depends
hmm
on how much muscle mass you have and
yeah,
your skeletal makeup and so yeah, I mean, you can be 210 but have the same sort of composition as someone who's 180 pounds. It's so specific to
yeah.
individuals. The one thing that I was really, really interested about, I mean, so you've gone from 365 pounds at your heaviest to 210 now, which is
hmm
just staggering. What was, so I mean, at some point you had to make a decision. You had to decide for yourself that the way today is not the way tomorrow's going to be. When did that decision hit? Like, what was the pivotal moment that flipped the switch for you?
When I got prescribed a CPAP machine, I was like, I'm that guy. I'm the guy now that needs assistance so I don't die. So I had this sleep study. My lightest I got was 206. And that was because I had to like fast for a blood test because I was going to my doctor every 6 months because I was losing weight really quick. And so they wanted to monitor.
Gotcha.
But now I've got back to like sometimes I'll go between 210 and 215. And I know the body can fluctuate between 5 pounds daily. So I weigh myself every day just so I keep myself on track. Some people say, oh, it's not neurotic. For me, it works because I was a guy who didn't look at a scale for 20 years and it almost killed me. So you've got to find out what works for you. Some people can do it once a week. Some people do it twice. Whatever works for you, that's what I tell. I don't tell people weigh themselves every day. I do it for me. I like that. I like being neurotic because it keeps me honest because I know, okay, this is what you weighed in the morning. At night, I only weigh myself when I wake up. Whatever I wake up, I weigh. So I'll get up, go run in the morning, and do that. But the pivotal moment was when I was on that CPAP machine and trying to sleep with all these hoses and stuff. So I went to my hospital. I got authorization to go get a sleep study done, and I was having like over 500 episodes an hour, which means I stopped breathing about that many times. And my pulmonologist said basically the aggregate effect of that is over time, all your vital organs will start to get oxygen deficit, and you will eventually get congestive heart failure, or one of your organs will fail you one day because every time you stop breathing, those organs are deprived of O2, and the brain has to jostle you, and that's when you wake up abruptly. You go come out, or somebody wakes you up. My wife used to say it was like a buzzsaw. She would like just shake me in the room, like wake up. So now she doesn't even hear me. I'm like a ninja now. So,
Super quiet.
and I wake up every few hours. It's crazy. I wake up every few hours. I sleep lighter, and I'm always feel like I got enough sleep, but it's weird. I feel great though, man.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge. I mean, that's got to be a giant change from
Yeah.
even before you had the CPAP. As somebody who suffers from sleep apnea, I know how big of a deal it was going from not having it to having it. So I
hmm
mean, going from
And it
having
saved my
it
life
to
too.
not needing it is a giant leap.
And it saved my life. And I want to let people know, um, without that CPAP machine, I probably would have. Who the hell knows? So I'm thankful that I had a team of specialists. I had a cardiologist. I had all these people who monitored me, my weight loss, and and my cardiologist said, "No offense, but I hope I never see you again." He goes, "And that's a good thing if we never meet again." Um, so I was on blood pressure meds, and my doctor said, even though you lose weight, you can actually have a genetic high blood pressure passed on from your parents.
Sure.
It's not always tied to weight. So I take BP meds. My doc still wants me on them, and my sometimes my blood pressure will drop to like 90.
Whoa.
But he's like, well, I just want you, I go back every couple of months and stuff. So if I got to take, and I haven't had salt in a year and a half. I haven't had a beer in a year and a half. But I have spirits and stuff,
Yeah.
which is fine. The carbonation I found too is a big killer because when you drink carbonated drinks and beverages, it stops your metabolism. Until all of that CO2 is broken down and released, you're not processing any food. So I gave all that up too. So and beer is now is that saying you can't have a beer? No, but I know my personality. I can't have one beer. So, but I remember when I was in the military and I was stationed overseas, I drink spirits like a fish, and then I can go run 6 miles and nothing. So you've got to know what works for you. I know runners who can drink beer and it melts off them. And as a runner too, another positive thing about running for me is you're always burning, so you can eat carbs and stuff, and the stuff melts off. I'm always hungry, but I've learned to be hungry for the right things. And I don't, I have some snacks. I cheat a little bit, like go out and have a slice of pizza, stuff like that. But I have a slice of pizza now, and that's a big deal. I got to cut it in half, and I get fuller faster, and my stomach has shrunk. And my doctor told me this was going to happen. I was like, nah. So he's like, well, you've had a stomach of a man, 360, 330 pounds. It can take 18 to 24 months for your stomach to actually catch up to where you're at.
Yeah, because
So
it's a big change, and that stuff
yeah,
doesn't happen very quickly. I
nope,
mean, you're gaining weight slowly over time, and
yes,
slowly getting that larger size. So shrinking. I mean, your body's going to be way behind where you
yep.
are now.
I'll tell you something freaky. I was having heart palpitations to the point where I thought I was having a heart attack when I was losing this weight last summer. So my doctor scheduled me for echocardiogram rather,
Oh, okay, an EKG.
and yeah, yep. And it turns out the left ventricle. So basically, when they got the report back, they said you still have the heart. At that point, I think I was 260 or 240. It's like you have the heart of a 340-pound person. So your heart is pumping harder, and so that backwash of blood you're getting, that rush, that's what's giving those palpitations, and that's what's making you lightheaded. So he goes, I wouldn't sweat it. If it happens a lot, then come back. And that was mind blowing. And when doctors say what's going to happen, you're like, yeah, whatever. And then it starts happening, and you're thinking, holy shit, I'm about to be punching my ticket. So that was scary. But the doctor said, he goes, you're good to go. And when I went to his office a few times, he walked by me in the new office, and he didn't even know it was me. He says, oh my, he's like, is my appointment here? And he's not even recognized. Every time I come back, he goes, you're getting smaller and you're looking leaner. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm taking your advice, doc. I'm finally taking your advice. I'm getting in the gym 3 to 4 days a week or something outside, and I'm watching what I'm eating, and like I'm taking this shit serious. And then my son, I'll be sitting watching TV, and he's like, Dad, and he traced my veins. He's like, I can see your bones. And he goes, why do you do that? I go, I get up and I run, or I run after work. So when you guys are older, I'm around, your mother and I around. I don't want to be the guy carrying the oxygen on a little cart. I want to be like Bryce Harper's dad, who just posted a picture. I follow him on Instagram. He's a player for the Nationals, and his dad looks like a young, older version of him, but his dad is fucking jacked. And I just believe that if you take care of yourself, you can live a more productive and fruitful life. These people that are like, oh, when I retire, I'll live. Fuck that. Live every day. I don't want to do the carpe diem. That's been overused, but there's a lot of life out there. And I used to have joint pain. I mean, I couldn't even bend. And one day I just did it. I wasn't thinking about it, and my son was like, holy crap, Dad, what? Because he never saw me do that range of motion. And I wasn't even doing it consciously. And then I took my son on a ride around the neighborhood on the bike. And we did about 5 miles. And he's like, you were leaving me, Dad. He goes, I like it though. So, it just lets me hang with my kids, and I want to model what a healthy person's supposed to be. So when they go out into the world and set their lives up, they got good habits. It's like my parents were in fact growing up. My dad ran marathons. My mom was a nurse, and I have nothing against overweight people. I was there. But, as we get older, once you get over 40, your everything stops. Like your testosterone slows down, and your body is now your enemy. So, when you're putting in your mouth you're killing yourself if you're not conscious. If you're just, well, I'm gonna eat what I want. Okay. But, I don't want to live a life hopped up on meds to regulate all this. And, I'll go in there and I'll run and I'll get out. Like tonight I ran and it was like 9:30, like another soul, one person in the gym. And I'm just watching the Lakers and Celtics from '84. They're running out ESPN, great documentary. I got a good iPod. I mean, on my phone, actually, the good playlist on my phone, and my wife got me some Beats, some wireless Bluetooth. So,
Ooh, yeah, there you go.
yeah, man. And the thing about running is, you spend a lot of money on music from like the iTunes store because you're always making new lists because you go through them so quick. So, you get good music, put you in the zone. But I tell people, basically, my formula is, get your heart rate up 4 to 5 times a week. I'm scaling back now because I'm almost at the goal weight. Be consistent. That's the hardest part. Be consistent. Like, don't go weeks without getting your exercise, and don't do it. Do it even when, even if you, like, I go on lunch walks. If I know I'm not going to run that night, I'll go on a walk on my new job. I'll do a 3-mile walk. I'll walk on my lunch, and then I'll eat lunch at my desk. I got a stand-up desk, so I stand up about 4 to 5 hours a day, and I can do it now. I mean, man, when I'm my highest weight, I couldn't even stand for 5 minutes. Fuck that. Now, I have to tell myself, okay, sit down, because once you get past a certain threshold of hours for standing, it can actually do bad stuff to you. So I would just say, start out small, whatever gets your heart rate up. I used to night walk around my neighborhood. I got a high vis vest and I got those LEDs that blink, and I'll tell my wife where I'm going so she would know. Got some good running shoes, and I started out walking. And Rome wasn't built a day. I tell you, people, take it easy on yourself. Don't push yourself till you're injured and then you can't work out and then you're like, fuck this.
That's a huge component.
Yes.
Is the consistency without injury. And there is one thing that I wanted to highlight, and that is that, number one, consistency is absolutely huge. You got to show up for work every day.
Sir.
But the highlighting the progressive changes over time, because
Yep.
like you said, Rome wasn't built in a day. And I mean, as I've told
No.
myself, I didn't get big in a day either. It took,
Nope.
decades and decades to get to that
Yes.
point. And so starting out, find what works that's within that safety margin of what you can do without being injured, and then progressively move up. But the key too is, that you have to find but you still have to push yourself. But the other thing that I wanted to point out was, the foundation of health and fitness. And I have to admit, with even just when the past couple of years, you talked to me 2 years ago and I would give you the same story, which is, whatever later, or not. My perception of what the future would be for myself is drastically different, because I've been fortunate. I've been blessed with a body that doesn't have any major defects. I don't have any diseases. I'm a very, very healthy person. And the fact that I was able to subject to myself, getting to almost 300 pounds, it's a miracle that I didn't, screw myself any worse than I have. But I think that your John Q. Public doesn't see their health as a base foundation for everything else they do. Their ability to be productive, to be successful, to take care of their kids, take care of their family, achieve their dreams. Health, the phrase is, it's not a priority for me right now. Not realizing that you're getting older. You're dying a little bit every single day. So the rhetorical question is, it's like, so the rhetorical question is, when are you going to make this a priority? When you're 50, when you're 60, like when you're already like screwed up and jacked up, you're on meds, you're bedridden, you're on O2. It's too late. Like it's too late. So it's this weird sort of inverted logic where we don't see health as a priority until it's already well past damaged, and then you can't get it back.
Nope.
You lose. Like, if you think about your total potential, you start out as an infant in, maybe into your mid-20s, say your total health potential is 100%. And then every 5 years or every 10 years, you tick off of that total potential. Think of it's like a battery. You know, the lifespan, what that battery can hold in terms of energy, gets less and less the longer it's used and the longer it's in service, until the point where you're 50, 60, 70 years old and you can't do anything. So the fact that you've seen and understand how critical it is to have the health as a foundation for your life, not just yourself and feeling good, but so you can be there for your kids, so you can be more active and productive at your career, and then, enrich your family's life that way. Like, that's probably one of the things that is most overlooked, is how foundational your health is, how everything else springs from it. And the fact that that's why it's so critical to pay attention to it and to actively work towards it every single day, because without your body, like, you've got nothing else. This is it. This is what we carry with us everywhere. And without it, like, you're dead. I mean, that's an easy way, but certainly with it in a damaged state, you can't raise your kids as effectively. You can't be as effective at your job or your business or your, whatever it is that you do to make money. It's harder to do everything. So with that in mind, what was describe to me a day in the life of Enrique at 365 pounds. Like, what did you do in terms of, like, how did you feel? What did you eat? Like you mentioned, not being able to stand at all. Like, what was a day like when you were that big?
It sucked, man. It was like you sleep is not good, right? So you're always lethargic. You're always just on E. You want to go to bed or lay down or recline because you just wipe the fuck out because you're carrying all this weight and you got all kind of joint pains, lower back. Lower back pain was my nemesis for a long time. I never really had ankle pain, but I had like plantar fasciitis, like if I was a runner, which is funny now because I run, I don't have it. You're always in a fog, and the thing is, I always tell people I should have been dead because I was working 2 jobs carrying that weight for close to 10 years. You're talking 20-hour days, 7 days a week. So you see me get up at like 3. I'd go to my night job, took a sleeping bag, sleep on the floor for a few hours if it was slow, get up, and then go work out and stuff. But the thing is, man, I was just waiting. Like, I had those thoughts, like, if this is it, I just want to fucking go. Cause the quality of life was non-existent. And I felt like I was letting myself down, my family down. They didn't say it, but I could see it. And, I know my wife, I've been with my wife like 16, 17 years. And she's been always by my side, never judged me, always tried to encourage me she always tried to just put things in my path that would elevate me as a human being. And she grew on vegetables, and she's like, you should try this and eat that. And I was like, I'm the kind of guy that I get fast food and pull them aside the road and eat it. And then while I'm eating it, it was good. And then after that, I'd be like, what did I do? And just hate myself. And so, if there are people out there listening to this and going, oh, this guy's, I don't have shit figured out. Trust me. Every day I get up, the clock goes reset to 0. And whatever I did the day before doesn't matter. It's like, okay, what are we doing today? But, in my highest weight, man, it was a lot of guilt, a lot of, self-deprecating and like, what the hell's going on? And so I had to take responsibility for putting myself in this position, which I did. And once I came to that position with the CPAP machine, and I was like, okay, this is getting out of hand right now, because what's next? Am I going to be carrying oxygen? Am I going to lose a limb? I was like, what they call, I didn't have diabetes, but I was like, what they call pre-hypertension. Like, I was right on the cusp of that stuff.
I think you can even be considered like pre-diabetic where they're like, it's coming.
Exactly. Yep, it's coming. It's like tapping my shoulder going, hey, remember me? Like Tom Cruise in that Mission Impossible. So I said, you know what am I doing? And I've always been one of those people that I always like to see down the road. And I've never like lied to myself. I've always known if I do A and B, then C is going to be a result. So I said, okay, I got to turn this shit around. So, I started out small, started walking, and then I wasn't seeing the results I wanted. And I'm a very aggressive person. When I set my mind to something, I want to see some shit. So a friend of mine was like, you really want to take this shit serious? Start running. I said, all right. So I did the 0 to 5K,
Oh, is
the
that like
couch to
the
five.
the couch to 5K? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's when the Superman versus Batman movie was coming out. I'm a big Superman fan. So I had what's his name? Hans who's the conductor on that piece? I forget. I look it up real quick. But
For the music?
yeah,
Hans Zimmer probably is who you're
yeah,
thinking of.
Hans Zimmer. Got a lot of Hans Zimmer stuff from Ridley Scott movies. And so I had that soundtrack, and I just basically made a playlist, and I would go to Planet Fitness, and there would be these people just like blowing by the machines, like crushing it. And the app would say, you run 30 seconds, and it would stop, and that was my thing. And I hadn't been able to. It took me almost close to 8 months to run a mile. You remember that one time I texted you offline.
Yep.
I was like crying. I was like, holy shit, man! I actually ran a mile nonstop. I think it was like 15 to 16 minutes, some crazy shit. But I was like, I fucking did it. And I was like, you know what? I could do this. So that gave me confidence. And it's the little victories, and you stack those up, and you appreciate them, and you bask in them when they happen. You don't push them aside and go, all right, let's do 3 miles. You know what, man? Every little victory you get, fucking grab that shit and choke the shit out of it, and put it in the memory bank. And then you'll have those days where your body will start to kind of like retard. Like you can't, you used to always do 4 miles or three, whatever your thing is, you can do it no problem. And all of a sudden you're laboring. Your body's going to have those valleys and peaks. Just stay with it. Maybe the one day you run or you bike, maybe it's going to be a low mileage day. That's fine. You don't always, I get so bent up on numbers, man. I'm a numbers whore. Like, man, I got a foot pod, and I wear a heart rate monitor. And so I like to see all this data and monitor myself. And I don't feel like I can go without that stuff. And then I look at my old numbers and go, what? But you know what? The long-term goal is you're out there, you're fucking in there, you're in the mix, and that's what matters. That every day, or I would at least to say, 70 to 80% of the week, you're doing something. So whatever, I tell people, whatever gets your heart rate up. So if you're walking, God bless you. And that's what, I run and I still walk on my lunch. I mean, you know, you can't get enough of it. We were designed to be mobile. We were designed to stand. I've been reading research on sitting, and it's not good. Now, some people will say, well, it's not been founded. That's true. But, the community is split 50-50 on that. So I know I feel like shit when I sit over an hour. I really do. I get lethargic. I'm like, ugh. When I stand, I feel great. So, I just inquired, but it took me a while to get that too. I bought myself a Vari desk, and this new job I'm at, I'll be able to work at home in a few more months. So probably get one for the house. But I see I'm inspiring my kids. Like my youngest son just finished his first season in baseball, and we ran 2 miles last summer, and he was 6 then, and he did it nonstop. And he was like, it's cool when your kids can look up to you and not somebody on fucking TV. So
Yeah,
I
it's
really,
huge.
yeah, I did it for my family. And, all the other benefits I'm getting, it's like, if you ever watch Smallville, how like Clark starts getting these powers every few episodes, and he's like, holy shit. Like when he's put in a situation that his body kind of like reveals to him a new power, or, it's kind of like that. Like you start getting in good shape, you'll realize things, man, your range of motion, you don't get worn out. You got energy, you're more alert, stuff like that. I'm willing to try yoga now. I used to always goof on that, but shit.
Yeah, there's something. I mean, there's a lot of evidence that suggests that like the range of motion and the stretching that
Yes.
that yoga provides can actually enhance strength. So yeah, stuff that I agree. Like there's stuff that even I've previously been like, man, that's kind of fucking stupid. But
Me too.
now all of a sudden it's like this is a good idea. The one thing I wanted to highlight was when you started, how many hours a day were you working?
21.
Okay, so when someone comes to you and says, "Yeah, but I don't have any time," how do you respond to that?
I just say, if you want to be around, you'll make the time. I mean, And I got to the point where I was like, you know what? If I died today, right, with these two jobs and busting my ass, they would go out and get somebody else. Not that, in a minute, quick turnaround. So you've got to put yourself first. I realize I've embraced the mantra, we're all expendable. Nobody is that secure in their job, even at the top of your game. Companies are always looking for ways to get what you do cheaper. And I've learned that. I've chased the money. I've been on the side where you're making a ton of dough and they want your fucking soul. Like you're on call, and if you're at work, you're doing great work, but can you do better? So I'm at the point now where I've dialed that back and I put myself first. And it was to the point my wife was like, "You always come when you come home, you go to the gym." And she was getting mad because I hadn't seen my kids all day. So I put myself in her shoes, and so I was like, okay, I'll either go in the morning or I'll go after work. So I've been in this new job for 2 months, and I've been going after work. And I beat myself up because I'm like, man, I used to go every morning, but that's because I had to. That's the only time I can get it in. So I'm going to try going in the morning tomorrow. We'll see. I mean, I've been able to do it a few times, but it feels good to actually sleep in your own bed and to actually wake up in your own bed. This is the first time in about 9 years that I've slept in my bed for a week straight. So,
Yeah, I mean, so that's
yeah.
the thing that I just wanted to make sure that we got out there was the fact that you were working
Hmm.
21 hours a day, and
Yes,
yet
sir.
you were still finding the time
Hmm.
to focus on yourself and to do something, to put the work in every day, because those are, usually the major one is time. I don't have time to work out, and then it's followed by I don't know what to do, which as far as I'm concerned, you have the internet, for crying out loud. I mean,
Yep.
there's a
Amen.
number of free resources. So I mean, there's the information's out there. The
It
time is
is.
available if you want to make it. It's so the excuses that people feed themselves to avoid doing the work.
Yep.
That's why I wanted to talk to you, because you basically just blow them all away. I've got too much, like, with like another example, and even though this is another buddy of mine who's in a similar situation that you were when you started, and he's unfortunately been dealing with doctors that are telling him, "Hey, sorry, like, you're kind of at the point in the scope of weight where there's no going back."
No,
That
you
he,
can
of
always go back. You can always
course,
go back. And we're resilient organisms. I mean, whoever you believe in, whatever, we're resilient. Whoever you believe your creator is, we're a great, we're a magnificent engineered machine. The thing is, the brain, our mind is our most powerful weapon, right? And our motivator. And you have to believe you can do it. And even though it seems insurmountable, I tell people one foot in front of the other and take one day, 1 hour, 1 minute at a time. Everything doesn't have to be all crazy. You don't have to get rid of all the bad stuff. Work on a little bit. I tell people the first thing is get out there, go walk maybe 5, 10 minutes. You're gonna be worn the fuck out. You're gonna be waking up muscles that haven't been worked like that, and God knows how long. And as you get confidence, then you want to push yourself more. Right? These people that go out there and buy all this sports apparel and shoes and bullshit, get that after you're consistent. Like I've got the same pair of shoes I bought last October, these Nike running shoes that at the time they were super light. Now they feel heavy because I'm lighter. And now I'm looking at a different pair of shoes. I probably put, I don't even know, over 100 miles on the motherfuckers. I don't even know what it is. I got to go looking because I keep logs in my Polar Fitness so I can go back and check. But, man, when you're running or whatever you're doing, and I just use running because that's what I do, that's my happy place, man. That's where I can just forget all this shit. That and riding the motorcycle, I can forget. Um, and honestly, getting healthy too has given me a self-serving purpose. Like now I can wear gear. I mean, I'm on Revzilla mostly. Like I ordered an Alpine Stars leather jacket. Never was able to order anything in leather because it was either enlarged and smaller.
right.
Um, I could probably get a full suit now. I'm just debating on what to do with that because these summers up in upstate New York, man, no joke. So
Yeah.
we just had a Americade. It was like 90 plus for like 3 fucking days. I know it's not like where you're at, but it just feels good that I can actually. I rode home in heat for the last couple of days in 90, and I was like, "That's it,
Yeah,
dude." A year ago, I
that's
would have wiped the fuck out.
yeah, that was gonna say that's something else that I've experienced myself, which is like this is the first. I mean, I've gone through some major changes over the past year, so now we're getting into the Phoenix summer here, where like next week it's supposed to be 120 degrees, and it's, it still sucks, but the heat this time around is not quite as bad. That
Yep. That's
now
right.
in times when I started noticing that I was actually cold more than I
Yep.
have been overheated, and your
Yeah.
stamina, especially if you're a motorcycle rider, goes way up in the
Mm-hmm.
heat because you don't have all that excess weight. But also, I think
Yes.
that the strenuous exercise and used to being overheated, I think that plays a huge part in it too. You're kind of mentally and physically used to being pushed that hard. So when the
Right.
heat's nasty, you're like, man, this ain't bad. I can handle
Nope.
this.
No, but I always go back. I'm an ex-military, so I always go back to that movie like G.I. Jane when, I love that movie because Viggo Mortensen, one of my favorite actors, and he actually played hockey up in SLU, which is a women's college, St. Lawrence, a few hours from me. Um, he was a badass man, but I tell you, that movie is great because it just shows the body will only go as far as the mind, and once you can like in your mind, once you can just push through that stuff. Now, if you really have pain, that's for you to determine. You'll know what your threshold is, but that's why I tell people just start out slow. There are days, man. I've been running 3 miles, and in my mind, I know. Like tonight, I was like, okay, we got to go 4 again because 4 was like my minimum, and I know based on performance and old data, when I run 4 or 5, my weight loss goes much more than if I just run 3. That's how this is my body, and you'll find out. You'll know what you can do, like a boxer getting ready for a fight. You'll know what you can do and how you can get down. But I just tell people in the end, whatever you have fun doing and you can do long term and makes you smile, because then we do, like my mom used to say when I didn't want to do my homework, do what you have to do so we can do what we want to do. So when I get on that motorcycle and I'm doing like whatever it is and the sun's beating on me, I'm smiling because I'm like, holy shit, like it's like all these new worlds are opening up to me just by getting fitter and smaller. And I'm like you, I'm always cold, man. And my wife's like, you're always cutting I don't put the heat up in the house, but like we get like last night, so we had 90s for 3 days in New York, and now it was 50s overnight. So I haven't even taken my oldest son to school. I've never been able to take him to school. So he's 11. He just had finals, moved him to 7th grade. I've been taking him now to school for like a month, and we just get to, it's only like a 2-3 minute ride, but that means everything to me. And so I don't have the 2 jobs and the major big income. I don't give a fuck. I got a peace of mind. I'm like an Indian dude in Mumbai. I have peace of mind from the gritty streets of Mumbai. I get to come and go as choose. And that's to me, I'm at the stage of my life now. I just want calm and tranquility. And I'm not going to engage with people who are negative. I'm not going to be around people who are negative. I don't even watch TV. Most of the shit I watch, I just finished binging The Americans. I'm waiting for season 6, the final season.
Nice.
Fucking brilliant show. And I'm happy that House of Cards is back.
Yes.
And Kevin Spacey is such a great, I know it might tweak people. He's just a great fucking patriot. And he did a stand-up joke last night about his character making false email accounts. And he's like, but his character pales in comparison to Hillary. I thought that was amazing. I was like, bravo. But my whole deal is like, I used to put a lot of shit before myself, my health, and my family. And in the end, man, when it's all said and done, when you get sick and you're on your deathbed, ain't no company, no boss going to say, you okay? The people that are going to be in your corner, the people that always love you. So, a lot of times the people that love us the most, we always kind of put them second fiddle. We put them on the back burner. And we all get to you. And I had done that for so long. And now I put, I enjoy seeing my kids when I get home, my wife. And, I just like seeing sunshine and human beings. I worked, almost, like I said, 9 years, 12-hour shifts. I didn't see the sun at all. And I worked a solo gig, IT, and I was the only night guy. So, my highlight was going to the grocery store at like 3 a.m. and I was in a fog. I'm like, this is my highlight. I'm like, this has got to change, man. I gotta do things I gotta take steps to put this in motion so I can get on a day job, see my kids, ride my bike, go fishing. So, it just feels great to have a second chance because nobody's guaranteed. And even if I die tomorrow, you know what? I know in my heart that I've done everything. I try to squeeze everything out of each day. Do I fall short some days? Absolutely. There'll be days I don't go to the. I don't. I mean, there'll be days I'll work. I may run once or twice a week. It happens.
Hmm.
Um, but the thing is to stay in the game. What did Paul Apostle say? You got to stay. You got to be in the fight. You got to be in there. I mean, there's gonna be days you're like, oh, I can't do it. Shit happens. Life happens. But always circle back to it. Just that's kind of like my my safety blanket is. I know I got my exercise, and that kind of keeps me. That lets me, once I go to that crucible, that I can face the world, because the world's going to beat you up. But as long as you, what's that saying that Shakespeare had, render unto Caesar what's his, then
Hmm.
you do what you got to do. So as long as I do what I got to do, like tonight, I feel good. So whatever happens tomorrow happens. But I just tell people, just stay encouraged. And I'm doing this. I don't have a workout buddy. I don't have a gym buddy. The people, and don't put your faith in buddies. It's nice. I mean, if you have a rapport and you have a friend who's supportive, that's awesome. But I've always been that person where, for whatever reason, people would commit and it wouldn't work. So I've always been like a loner in that regard, because in the end, this journey is about you. And I wouldn't try to put. Everybody has different path, and you appreciate the people that walk with you for how long they can be with you, and then sometimes life takes them on a different. So don't get bent out of shape, don't get mad, but realize why you're doing it, right? That you want a better quality of life, you want to be around for those who care about you. And let me tell you, man, you get healthier, it just opens so much up for you. I just feel good being alive. Like, I like being outdoors and being around people. Should I take out garbage now? It's good stuff.
I think one of the biggest changes that I've noticed, because as my own journey, when I've worked through weight loss, and you reach those plateaus, and then for me, every plateau required some type of a major readjustment. Either I had to significantly change my exercise routine in terms of what I was doing or the quantity that I was doing. I had to change my food regimen in terms of what I was eating. And now you start to also realize that I mean, like you mentioned, how important it is on what you put in your body. But I mean, in today, I'm going shopping at the grocery store, and you look around, and it's amazing how much is there that we've got no business eating any kind of large major quantity. And there's so little emphasis on what you put in your body. But of course, you're battling the forces of commerce. These businesses, the food industry, they're in the business of making money, and that's fine, man. I mean, business is business. But now, especially with the internet at your fingertips, it was easier to justify the ignorance of food, say, 15, 25, 30 years ago, because if you didn't know, you didn't know. But now you've got enough information at your fingertips that it's available and it's out there, but you have to make the commitment to look into it. And I think that's just one of those small changes that you make along the way. And as you said, none of those changes happen instantly or overnight. My one question
Nope.
is how, like, legitimately, if you had to say 1 through 10, with no exaggeration, how hard was this change for you to make?
Like a 20, because I didn't see results for a long time. And I'm like, what? I'm knocking myself out. But, once, but I knew it's better than doing nothing. And so that's what kept me going. And I knew that, like you said, you didn't gain this weight overnight. You ain't gonna lose it overnight. And my wife's like, oh, you look great now. You can stop. But, I think when I was in the military, I was 170, 175. But I was also like in my 20s, I was like 18, 19. So I'm realistic. I realize that you lose more muscle mass as you get older. So I also take like between 100 grams of protein a day and pre-made shakes. I take a lot of supplements because I don't eat. I cannot even eat the quantity of food required. So, I take a multi, I take fish, I take iron, I take. Did I ever tell you? Let me go to my desktop here while I'm talking to you. I'll pull it up right now. But I had a major workup that I've never had this done in my life. And my doctor was like, well, let's go check your levels. And I had cholesterol and all that jazz done. And when I was in my unhealthy stage, I was like, I already know what's going to be like.
They already know it's going to be bad.
I'm going to be, yeah. And let me see if I can find this stuff. But this stuff was pretty amazing. I remember they sent it to me in, what was it? It was like a Citrix VPN, and it was because it was HIPAA, so I had to like download this app that encrypted it. But I was like, what? Let me see. But essentially, what it comes down to is, I think bad cholesterol, you're considered healthy if you're like 200, and that mine was like, I think 45, and then my good cholesterol was like 100, and you're considered really healthy if it's 150. And then so my doctor was like, just he couldn't believe it. And so I mean, I'm well under, both of those. And the thing I would tell people is it can happen. It just, you're not, and everybody, this is what I go back to. Everybody's physiology is different. Some people, I tell people, don't get discouraged. Okay, I found it. Here we go. Don't get discouraged. I mean, don't judge yourself by other people too, because you'll see people and they'll be blowing up and you'll be like, well, what the fuck? I'm up here. Stay encouraged. And I always read, and I still read. I mean, I subscribe to all kind of people. I read stuff. If I hear something, I scoop it out. And I always try to tweak my regimen, what I'm doing. And people, just people shouldn't get discouraged if they don't see right away. It wasn't, let me see, this give me the FU. All right. It didn't happen for me overnight. And I just want to let people know that they can get there. They just got to put that work in. All right, so here we go. I'm going to give you the numbers. So I'm looking at my LabCorp workup. This was done back in, let's see a date time on this. Okay, so March of this year, right? Okay. March 3/3/17. And the only thing my doctor said was, are you taking a lot of B12? He says, when do you take B12? I says, every day. He goes, because I take the chewable. He goes, oh, take that like once, twice a week. Other than that, you're good. I was like, what? So let's see here. Okay, so yeah, it was considered high, my B12. It was, I can't even interpret half this shit. So when the pointer, I forget the less than and greater than, it's been a while. So if you got a carrot pointing to the right, that's less than, right?
Right, yeah, well, it's whatever. Where I remember in grade school, it was always the alligator mouth, and whichever direction the mouth was going, that was the higher number.
All right, so the mouth is going to the left, and the point is going to the right. But it says less than 2,000 is high. So my B12 was high. Let me see here. It'll give me, okay, so give me my, this is let me move this window over. And I actually Googled all these numbers. It was nuts. Let's see, HDL. Okay, so my cholesterol total, lipid panel. Okay, so my cholesterol total was 145. My wow. HDL was 50. Yeah, my HDL was 50. Okay, my LDL 79.
Awesome.
Yeah, and my doctor said, "What the fuck are you like?" He's old school Polish dude.
Yep.
And my wife is Polish, and Polish people are like, they're just salt of the earth people, man. No bullshit. So he looked at me, he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Doc, I'm taking what you said to the next level." And he just is like gave me a high five and stuff. It was like the episode of The Office when Jim and Pamela would do those air high fives, like, and it was like that. He was,
don't touch me, but let's do a high five.
Yep. Yeah, and it was like that. Like my doctor was like, he was proud, and he was like, "I wish more of my patients." And I look, Doc, basically got me on my ass, and yeah, I was scared. I didn't want to die. I was scared. I'm old school. I didn't want to be a burden on my family. I always think about shit like that. Like some people say, "Oh, if I get sick, they'll take care of me." I'm like, if they get sick, I'm thinking all the stuff my wife's gonna have to do: raise 3 kids and take care of some invalid dude who, put himself in the position. So I was like, I can't do that. So I'm a neurotic like that. So, I read you those numbers off that report, man, and that was like, what are we in June? So what, 3 months ago? 3 months ago?
About 3 months ago. Well, I think the aspect of physiology is something that is not is something again that's not talked about either because it doesn't conform to the advertising and the fitness industry, which is its whole is a huge scam all by itself.
Yes, sir.
Because there's all of this. There's this huge emphasis on, sort of the fitness version of the get rich quick scheme where, hey man, just 5 minutes a day, you can get ripped abs. They don't tell you that you got to have a proper diet and you got to do this every day for like 2 years on end.
Yep.
But also, but they also don't talk about how, like you said, you cannot compare yourself to other people. And this is something even with my own, collection of friends within my gym, it's not unusual for someone to look at somebody else and go, well, that's crap that person can eat carbs and lose weight. Even today, I heard it today with 2 gym friends who are in a competition with each other where I have a woman, who is of one age and she's competing against a man of another age. And while they've worked out the rules for it to be as fair as possible, she's like, I don't understand. How can he go out for a weekend and he can eat all this barbecue food and then he loses 8 pounds? Like, that's bullshit. And it's like, but you don't know. There's so many factors at play, from his age to whether or not maybe he was fit before and then he got big, and now that like in my case, I've been a big guy pretty much since I was 19 years old, so my body is programmed for it. But that doesn't mean that I can't get back to where I used to be. It's just that it reacts differently. We all react differently to processed foods or carbs or sugar, and so you really have to treat yourself like a science experiment where you make small changes, you collect data, and then you reform a hypothesis about how you respond to certain foods. Another friend of mine, not too long in the distant past, found out she was allergic to almost all processed foods. Whereas, so you never know what's, like you said, what someone else's circumstances are. We can make inferences, whether positive or negative. But you even have the people that are dubbed skinny fat. These are people who they seemingly stay very, very thin, but eat total trash, which we know either catches up with you later in life.
BMI,
Yeah, or, for all we know, their insides are destroyed. So you just cannot look at somebody and look at their eating habits or even their exercise regimen or, lack thereof, and make any kind of inferences. You really can only focus on yourself. And in the end, you're only in competition with yourself. So you can get advice or encouragement from other people that you admire, but at the end of the day, like, nobody's going to know your body as well as you do. And that's what you have to go on.
Amen to that.
Yes, sir. What, I was something else I was curious about is, like, talk a little bit about your diet. Like, what are you eating now? And I'm also really curious if you could talk about what you used to eat. Like, what's your, again, going back to like a day in the life, when you were at your heaviest compared to what your diet is now.
Okay, yeah. Back in the day, the good old days, I would term, like, McDonald's breakfast, or when I worked at GE, we had a cafeteria there, so I would get like, they had like this buffet set out, so you could get your eggs to order, and then you could they had like a big bowl of bacon, like these potatoes. So I wouldn't spare anything. It'd be like fucking Viking feast. So you may be talking like 4,000 calories, or probably close to thereabouts, and then lunch. So I was probably eating I look at it now, probably 20,000 calories a day. And you don't think, people say, well, I don't count calories. Yeah, people go, I don't count them. And, I just eat what feels good. I mean, if you eat fast food, a regular one of those meals, McDonald's, one of the big three, that's about like 3,000 to 4,000 right there.
You get 1,200 usually with just one component of that meal without breaking a sweat.
Yep. So, that, no exercise. I used to put salt on every fucking thing. I wasn't a big sweet guy, but I was a big salt guy. I wasn't a big soda guy, but I was a big snack guy. And my doctor told me that snacks will literally kill you, because the human body was only meant to eat when you're hungry for fuel. That's it. And this is another thing I'll tell people listening, is when you're eating, it goes down to a more psychological void. There's some type of void, there's some pain there, because usually when you're eating, you must ask most people when they're eating if they had breakfast or lunch, why are you eating? Oh, I don't know, I'm bored. Or if they can't determine it, usually there's an underlying issue. And I'm not a big fan of the soft sciences because they're bullshit a lot of times, but there is some credence. I will make a caveat. There is some credence. A lot of times, if we're doing stuff and we don't know why, it's because we're trying to fill something. I'll put it like that. So whatever that is in your life, only you can speak to it. But I knew that, I was stressed out working. I mean, you're stressed out when you're working one job and you're checking email from the other job. So when you get there, you know what you got to do. I mean, I was always going, and never had a chance to take a pause and just smell the roses. I was like, I'm surprised I didn't fucking collapse at the wheel or die or something. I really am. And I'm not saying that to scare people, but I was like 2 feet in the grave. The hole was dug. I was like Tim Curry and Pennywise, which I actually finished that book last week, which I'm pretty proud of myself.
Nice.
Yeah, it was on tape, albeit, but still 44 hours listening to Steve Weber read it. It was great book. And I got the hard copy, but I made it 200 pages, and I'm like, you know what? I don't have time to read this.
I think I'm just gonna listen to the audiobook version of this.
I'm getting my audio on. So I'm a big Stephen King, big Tim Curry fan, man. Love him in Legend and love him in this. And but yeah, back to that, I would say a typical breakfast would be like, your all-American breakfast, right? Bacon, toast, jelly, butter on it. If I had a bagel, I need cream cheese and I need jelly on that. And if I had eggs, it'd be an omelet, lunch would be burger, fries. And if I didn't want to stay on site, I'd drive down to my local pub and I'd get wings with blue cheese and I have like 2 beers and some fries. And then for dinner, I'd have something. And then maybe after, and then drinks. So I was all fucked up, man. And then when I got straight, I kind of weaned myself off in stages.
What did you cut first? Would you remember what was like the first thing?
I would start cutting the carbs because for me, I knew to get right, you got to get those carbs out the way. Oh, I can't do it. Then you're not ready. You have to do it. So, not every meal, but I started with the breakfast. So I would get my eggs and then no toast. And my friend would go, "What?" I go, "Yep." And he goes, after a few weeks, he's like, "Man, I'm seeing a difference in you." I'm like, "Yeah." And I wasn't even running then. I was just like getting to the gym, maybe doing like lifting. I used to try circuit. For me, I'm not a big weight guy and all that because it takes a lot of that to maintain, meaning that if you don't go lift for like a week or two, that shit like becomes a blob. And I'm not
quick,
all about being in the gym.
Yeah, it goes quick real fast.
Yes. It's high maintenance. So, I'm running and I'm getting like the body is predisposed. You have a frame underneath all that. And when the body reaches a happy medium, you'll see yourself. So, I got tighter arms and I always had good legs and stuff, lower trunk half. And the top now looks good. I mean, I can actually see my clavicle and that little ball joint that's right below your sternum, I forget what it's called. I can actually feel that. I actually was starting to feel that like when I was 240. It was pretty cool. So my son goes, "What? I didn't even know you had those kind of bones." That I can, what they call that, a non-scale victory, NSV. I could actually wash my whole back with my 2 arms. And I haven't been able to reach around like that. Yes. And I can actually, when I ride my motorcycle, I can turn almost 3/4 and look. Even with the new jacket that has the hump in the back, I can actually turn all the way like 3/4 around.
It's funny that you mentioned that because to a lesser extent, that's something that I noticed with myself, especially when I got closer to around 225.
Yes, sir.
Because you always see these guys and they're on the sport bikes and they like careen themselves around and they can look directly behind them. And I would try that. And I'm like, how the fuck do people do that? Because I get like to like 90 degrees and that's it. I stop. And then so it's like you said, there's all these small changes that you notice, things that you maybe weren't even aware that you couldn't do just because you were operating under a specific norm that all of a sudden you can do. And that's when you realize the changes. And I think that in your case, well, I guess I'll follow us up the question, but do you feel that there was any advantage to the fact that you had been fit at least at some point in your life, whether it was in your teenage years or in the military? Do you feel like that helped you in your motivation or your sense of what you had lost at all?
Yeah. I had a frame of reference. So, I didn't really start getting, I never ran in my life. And then when I was stationed overseas, I was on these islands, the Azores, which are Portuguese islands. I was there from 95 to 96, 15 months. And this guy who worked in supply was like, I couldn't get in the gym. It just wasn't my deal. I was like, it just never spoke to me. But I was like, man, I got to get fit. So I used to always see this guy come back and he's like, hey, man, we started talking. It wasn't even about exercise. I think we met through like friends. And he was like, I was off for a few days. And he said, you want to go run? I said, all right. So we stretched a little bit in my room. And I did 3 miles, and the base is pretty much like a 3-4 mile circumference. And you're talking, if you ever get a moment, just go to YouTube and go Lodges Air Force Base or Lodges Field, and you'll see the island, or put into Sarah, you'll see it. And you're talking elevation changes from like 1,500 feet.
Wow.
And I did the first time, I thought I was going to die. And then after I was like, I'm hooked. And this is when I had the Sony yellow Walkman. Remember that? The fucking Sony yellow.
Oh, dude, those
like
are awful. But they were so good too.
Yeah, and it had the Dolby, and you could switch the switch and reverse the tape inside.
Yep.
And it had little rubber gaskets. So I used to go out. I was an animal. I would go out at like 4 or 5 when the sun was at its highest and fucking roast, do my 3 miles.
Wow.
And it was a one hill that was a 30-degree. I don't even know. The grade was insane.
You staring at the sky as you're going up, or
yes,
you just see you're like your head is level and all you see is road.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I couldn't put it more succinctly myself. So you're doing that. The last leg of the trip, or probably the second mile in, it was that you did that for about 10 minutes, just going up that, and then when you crest that hill, you would go down and then you could see the whole base and the island before you and the base pool, and then I would go back out again at midnight or 1. And I ran in the rain, and in the Azores when it rains, it's hot. So you run, and it's amazing. So you would run sometimes in the rain, and you would dry off. I can't even explain it. You would run on one side of the island, and you would turn around, and there's no rain, and you would dry throughout your run. And that's when I got hooked. So so I got out the service in '97, and I hadn't run in 23 years. And so, last year was the first time I was able to actually run a mile, and then I did that 5K, and I told you, and I was emotional, and so I was like, holy shit. It was like that scene in Officer and a Gentleman when Louis Gossett finally breaks down Richard Gere, and, they come to terms with each other, and they respect each other after a while because Richard Gere will try to take shortcuts, and Louis Gossett is trying to show him, if you take shortcuts in training, you'll take shortcuts the rest of your life. And that's what I try to tell my kids. I'm making you do all this shit the hard way to instill a frame of reference. So when shit gets tough, you got something to go back to. And that's what that's about. So like, to me, the fitness isn't really about, oh, I'm better than this other person. It's, to me, I'm actually, when I run, I always tell people I'm keeping the Reaper away for one more day. That's what I say. Keeping the Reaper away. That's my saying. Am I ever going to go and do a New York or Boston? My dad did those. And I asked him what his times were. He's like, I think he did the New York in 3:30 and he did the Boston in 3:46.
Wow.
I never do that. And I know that. And that's fine. I'm not a competitive runner. But, any day I keep that Reaper away, I'm good. That works for me. And, so now what am I eating now after that? I've been bad the last couple of months, but typically I'll have some yogurt or granola in the morning. Well, now I find when I run in the morning, I won't get hungry till lunch. If I don't run, I'm always hungry until I go run after. So in the morning, I haven't been running. I usually run after work. So that just works for me. I love my sleep. I'm a better person. But I'll have some granola and what do you call it? Some light yogurt, 80 calories, and I'll just dump a shitload of granola till it's super chunky like cement. Or yeah.
Chunky.
Yep. Or I'll have like eggs and toast, or have like one slice of toast. Or like today, I didn't have anything, and it wasn't on purpose. I just skipped lunch because we got a big delivery. And then I had like some Pakistani food, like chicken and veggies and some rice, and it was good. And even when I have rice, you can have rice. When you get to a point when you've made significant loss, you can start reintroducing stuff. Now I've always had a digital food scale, even on my fat days. And I was like, get out of here. And that shit was dusty. And then I dusted it off after a couple of years. So I use it. especially if I'm going to have bad stuff, I'll weigh the bad stuff. The good stuff, I eat in abundance. But the bad stuff, like I'll have basmati rice every now and then, or jasmine rice, or white rice, whatever, and I'll weigh like 2 portions. And I'm like, I'll have one serving, which is basically like if you cup your hand and pour rice until you meet where your fingers meet your palm, that's it. And people go, I can't eat that. You be fucking surprised. After clean eating for a year, your body will be like, I'm full. What? But I don't try to tell people. I just go, just stick with it and you'll see.
Well,
So,
it's where we're working on. I mean, the again, like another reminder is, we're so used to modern society. We're used to, instant gratification. I can get
yep,
shit from Amazon brought to my house like the
yep,
day I order it. That's the modern society that we've created through technology. But our bodies are built on millions and millions of years old programming and
yep,
biology. We're still in the hunter and gatherer phase according to our own brain. And it's one of these things where our brain is not it's not biologically caught up to modern society. So what we think, I mean, sugar being probably the most potent example of this, where, we're designed to crave sugar because it was rare in the wild. It's on berries and fruits and stuff like that, which predominantly only existed in certain areas in abundance, and it was scarce in others. So you're designed to crave it because it was rare. And so, but now when you can just get it anywhere,
mm-hmm,
it's addictive qualities within your own brain. People just can't handle it because biologically they're programmed to go after it. And when it's in abundance and it's easy, it's harder to say no. So when you really frame what you eat through the basis that you're biologically predisposed to crave certain things in certain quantities, and when it's easy and available, your brain just does not know how to say no, how to shut that off. And so only through
yep.
discipline can you reconstruct how you think, how your brain operates, to get yourself back to, like you said, craving the stuff that's good. And yeah, you'd be surprised what you can go without, or even what you crave. I mean, the notion that, man, I mean, had a conversation with someone not too long ago that's like, I used to crave, all the sweets, the donuts, the breads, the grains. And he's like, I think I'm going to have myself a spinach salad. And that sounds really
Mm-hmm,
delicious. And
yep,
it's not, it's not like hypnotism or any kind of
nope.
crazy rewiring. It's just, that's what he craves because that's what he goes after having the discipline to change his diet. So yeah, it's
You
amazing
mentioned it,
what can be
discipline.
done that way.
You mentioned it. It's discipline, and it's sometimes, when you're working out early in the process, it's sometimes eating stuff that doesn't taste good, because you have to reverse and roll back a lot of the damage you've done. And then you will earn the right, the privilege to introduce stuff that tastes good. But when you're fighting for your life, you got to put taste in the back seat, like that Alanis Morissette video when it's like 8 of her and they're all talking. Jagged Little Pill, love that album. And Alanis driving the car and another Alanis is the passenger. She's talking to Alanis is in the back. You got to tell that brain, the fat brain, shut the fuck up, and put it in the back, and then you're going to swallow that pill, and that may be months. You know what I'm saying? But when you like, I've texted you like my BP readings,
Yeah.
or I put that up there too. I put it on Instagram. I show people this is the fucking real deal. What you're seeing is this ain't no Hollywood shit that, I'm struggling. I'm getting up. There are days I'm like, why am I fucking doing this? Like, I'm running and I'm in the gym and I'm like, there's nothing good on TV. God damn, my playlist is whack. And I'm like, ooh, I want to stop now. I'm good. And I'm like, nope, because you're asking maybe 40 minutes of your day that'll give you maximum benefit, whatever, 30, 40. Don't shortchange yourself on your workout, whatever that is. Don't do it. Don't cut corners there, because you hang with it, your body will rise to the occasion. It will adapt. It will give you. But if, once you stay on that path, I mean, there's times you'll be like walking in the darkness. You'll be like, damn, this is some bullshit. I don't see nothing. I don't feel nothing. But let me tell you, every day you take care of yourself and make a positive step, you're getting benefits. It may not be, you may not be able to recognize that or identify it, but it does happen. And like you said, being able to be on a sport bike, some of it is self-serving. Like, it's, you know what? Another thing is, it's awesome buying clothes off the fucking rack. No more of this 4XL and, oh, I'd love to wear that, but I mean, I got my first suit that I did for my interview for this current job.
Yeah, I remember that.
I've never worn a suit ever, other than like high school, because my highest waist a Christmas party in 2013 was 50.
Wow.
Yep, I still got the pants with the tag on them. I never even wore that. I had two pairs. And one was like a 48, 46, and one's a 50. The 50 is still brand new in the JCPenney bag from like 2013. I found the receipt. And now I'm rocking a 33. But
That's
I usually
huge.
wear like,
Huge. I mean, you do like the deal where you like sort of like jump inside those pants and they're just like fucking
I don't
huge.
do that. I just look at them and I smile. But I usually wear 36. So I like to conceal carry so I can, got that room. If I'm not gonna carry, then I wear the 34s. I used to make fun of people with skinny jeans. I wear skinny jeans, and now my 34 skinny jeans are baggy on me. And my wife's like, I said, oh, I went to Walmart and I tried on a 33, but they were too small. She goes, stop it already. I don't want you to melt. Stop. But
Stop.
I'm addicted, dude. I just, and you'll find that your clothes. There was a point where I had to go to LLB and get a membership there because they've got it where if you don't like your clothes, you can return them. So I was going to LLB like every 2 months to swap out my clothes because they were just getting smaller and smaller. So, I just tell people, it does pay off, and I get to wear baseball, fitted caps now, like all the things that I took for granted when I was healthy, and I didn't have to work as hard. Like I ran because I was bored. Like I wasn't fat in the military. In high school, as a senior, I was 165, and my whole life I was like 140. So, when you grow up being slim, you're like, oh, whatever. And then when life hits you and you get out, you're like, you don't know where to go. So I had the good fortune of meeting someone who basically took their time and kind of was like, walk me. And when I couldn't run, they walk with me. And I think those people will help you in your journey. Find them. They're out there. They want to help. When people ask me stuff, I'm more than willing. I'm not like, oh, I don't have all the secrets. There are days I slip. I had some bad stuff, but I don't let the bad stuff get out of control. And that's the thing. You can't say, oh, I'm going to have a cheat meal. I'm going to have a cheat day. No, 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 no. Once you know you're cheating, stop. And even for different people, it may take a couple of times until they get it. But, it's good to feel guilty because that's your compass. People say, oh, I don't have to feel guilty. The fuck you do. Because the one time you don't feel guilty, like I hadn't looked at a scale for 20 years, 20 plus years. And then after this, I look at the scale every day. Every morning I get up, I put it out there. I go, okay, that's where we're at. All right. Sometimes I'll be like, I'm not happy. Other times, like, yes. And then I started reading. I understand your weight can fluctuate between 3 and 5 pounds daily with all kind of shit. That doesn't have anything, and that's not an indictment that you're in poor health. The body, the tissues, the water, you can't, some things you just can't control. But that doesn't mean you throw in the towel and go, okay, well, I'm this today, so I'm going to eat. And I used to do that. I used to use it as justification. Oh, well, today the scale says I'm 2 pounds bigger. Well, fuck it. I'm going to eat wings. Now it says I'm 5 pounds bigger. So now I go, okay, what can I cut today? And that was a big reversal. I never used to think like that. And now I do. Now I go, okay, I'm heavy today. This morning, the scale is barking at me. What can I do? And it's been a big re-education. It's been awesome because I can now consciously control what I consume. I can say no. I can be places and go, nope, no thanks. You sure? Yep, I'm sure. I don't eat bread when I go out to the restaurants when they put it on my table. I'll work on another tip. I eat the protein first. That keeps you satiated. Eat the protein first, and then if you want to move to starches and carbs, then you eat those. Don't eat them in tandem. Eat the protein first. It's a learned habit. It takes time. Trust me.
Yeah, those are all the changes that you have to make. And it's just, I don't know. It's definitely one of those things where, it's all a rewiring. It all takes time.
Yes.
And you have to be willing to put the work in.
Yep.
And I I keep sort of, the one thing I keep going back to is what people hear and believe versus what it actually is, because I think a lot of times different things are emphasized or advertised as a way of giving people an excuse out, and like the scale being one that's particular. And I always hear it float around my own local gym. Well, the scale doesn't matter. You have to ignore it. And I try to counter that with, well, it doesn't matter, but when we start talking about things like body fat composition and muscle composition and your frame size and stuff like that, most of it is in context of comparing your weight to somebody else's weight. You can't do that. But to ignore the scale it's a data point. It's a data point that you become aware of once you understand your own body. And I think that's the missing component. Is it's not that you can ignore the scale. You have to watch it and understand how your weight will fluctuate based on your exercise, based on what you're eating. And those are all those data points that you keep, so that eventually you can look at the scale and say, well, my weight has gone up, but it may be a factor of muscle growth, or it's because I maybe had a lot of water. You'll know with some relative accuracy why the scale has gone up. You're not going to look at it and go, oh, wow, I don't understand why that happened. Mm-hmm. And likewise, you'll understand why it drops. But I think that people take that information and they go, oh, well, the scale, I can just ignore it. And then, like you said, as the numbers go up, well, the scale doesn't matter. Well, God damn it does matter, because it's going in the wrong direction. You can't just look at body fat composition. On the other hand, you can't necessarily focus only on body fat, because there could be other things that are going on. And those body fat, measuring devices are not absolute. They do have some inaccuracy depending on the type and how it works. So it all comes down to knowing your own body and not comparing yourself, but don't allow different facets of fitness science to become an excuse. And most certainly, like you said, do not allow yourself to go, well, I screwed up today, so fuck it. That's a big one, where once you realize you screwed up, it's time to rein it in. Pull it back in and go, okay, I realize I made a mistake. I'm going to stop, or worst case scenario, like you said, hit the reset button the next day, because you can't change what you did yesterday. You can only change what you do today. And so with that mindset of resetting the clock every day, but that goes both ways in that, yeah, that's cool. You showed up yesterday, you did your work yesterday, but that day's gone. Today's a new day. You got to work today too.
Absolutely.
Because people will say, well, it's cool, man. I worked out the past couple of days, so now I can just fucking cut loose. No, dude, that's gone. That day is done. Yep. The ship has sailed. You got to start over. You got to work today. And so all of those different facets of the mindset are going to be what contribute to success. You mentioned doing a lot of reading. Are there a couple of books that have helped you along your own fitness journey that stand out that you could recommend to people that are good reads?
Not really the books. It's more like I just Google. I don't have any immediate links that come to mind, but between Facebook, there are a lot of groups. You can go. I'm not a keto person, because keto doesn't work for me. But I just went to YouTube, and whatever just sparked my interest. Like I would put in stuff like weight loss or running. I would read like just random stuff on the web. I would just tell people, you have this resource before the government tries to like shut the web off. Just Google the fuck out of it. Like it always kills me working in IT. People go, I don't know how to do this, and I go, you do have a smartphone, right? Yeah. Google that shit. Like I don't understand how people just sit there. I'm surprised I still draw a paycheck from being in IT. Like I'm surprised that I'm no longer obsolete. But apparently people fucking check out. Like I go, when you're at home, if the TV doesn't come on, do you sit there and pray to it? Do you give it rum and chicken like fucking Jobo and Major League? No, I check the connections. So why the fuck do you? Why does that not translate to when you get to work? My computer's not on. Okay, check your physical connections, the power button on. But I'm glad they're dumb, because if they're dumb, it lets me.
At least there's opportunity there. Yeah, but I mean, it's the same kind of thing where it's like, if you don't know. As opposed to just sitting there and just keeping yourself in ignorance going, whoa, I don't really know what to do. I don't know how to lift weights. I don't know how to run. I don't know how, educate yourself. Like, but
Yes.
I mean, you know, even today, I mean, this is terrible, but there was a survey release that I read today where 48% of Americans don't know where chocolate milk comes from.
Yeah, it is. And, this is the same. I'm a big Howard Stern fan, from the 80s. So this ties right in. He would do the Man of the Street interviews and ask people the capitals or who's the department, who's the Secretary of Defense. And people go, this person. They don't know. So we live in a world, well, we live in a country. I won't even do the world. I was stationed overseas. I'll tell you about that another time. But we live in a country where if you don't give a fuck, it's okay. Like, it used to be a time when if you didn't give a fuck, you were pointed out. Now it's like, that's okay.
Yeah,
And
so
we
it's
have,
okay that I mean,
right.
but it's always, I mean, especially when you talk about health, it's like it's inescapable. You know,
Yep.
there's no ability to stay ignorant about it long term, and then the consequences come back later. You know, and then of course you're sitting in your doctor's office and they're like, well, you know, you got pulmonary hypertension and you got
Yes.
this and you got that. Well, how did I get that? Well, what do you eat every day? Well, let's see,
Yep.
eat fast food and I drink like 3 Monsters. Oh, yeah, you can't do that. Well, everybody says that I can't do that shit. You know, it's just what people say. You can't drink soda. You can't eat fast food. Yeah, fuck that. Well, like, I mean, in my case, I grew up in an environment where doctors 9 times out of 10 didn't know shit. You know, no
Yep.
disrespect to anybody who's got an MD. It's a situation where, again, like I grew up in a family where we understood that you had to know your own body, and it was one of those cases where the doctors just didn't know, and this was dealing with my father. They just didn't know my dad's body like he knew it, and the doctors would say one thing, and my dad's like, "That's not right," but thanks anyway. But so keeping in mind that science is always evolving and we're always learning new things about the human body, but there is a point at which you look back and you're like, well, 10 million years ago, million years ago, since we were hunter and gatherers, that really hasn't changed. Like, we haven't evolved, the world has. So what was true then is true now, and you're having to shove through modern society the notion of people trying to sell food, people trying to sell get rich quick fitness regimes. There's so much that's encompassed with advertising that we misconstrue as true information. And no one is just going to voluntarily tell you, hey, you should just eat good foods. I mean, maybe the government puts out a PSA or something like that, but
Right.
everybody dismisses that shit. They're like, nah, man, I was joking with friends the other day. I'm like, if you just pay attention to some of the popular bullshit on the internet, if it's gluten free, and which don't even get me started on a gluten allergy. I'll talk for hours about that. If it's gluten free and it's got protein and it's organic, you can eat as much of it as you want, because obviously that's like the superfood. And it's like, no, organic doesn't mean shit.
Nope.
Yes, protein's important, but we have plenty of evidence to show that too much protein just gets metabolized as glucose, so that doesn't do you any good. So you gotta have everything in proper portions, and so you can't even believe the popular stuff, because 9 times out of 10 it's designed either to sell you something that people want to sell you to make money, or it's done as a way to provide like an excuse. So like I said, when I talk about the scale stuff, so you just have to educate yourself, and it's
Yep.
not hard. It just takes time. Like,
It
people
does.
spend all this time watching 6 seasons of a show in one weekend, but they won't spend 30 minutes researching on the internet how to have a better meal this week.
And that's, I mean, I'm going to go to bed in a minute because I'm beat.
Oh,
But
I know we're coming up the end. We're coming up here at the end of the time.
man, we can do follow-ups. It's awesome. I would say, you make time for what's important to you. And this is where I take the hard line. A lot of people want their cake and eat it too. They want to be able to, have all the information and work out. But when it works for them, no. There's going to be pain associated with this, in the sense that you're going to have to give shit up. You're going to have to restructure your life, and you're going to have to change your worldview on your health and your long term and the long game, right? That they say in golf. Do you want to be around? Do you want to enjoy your life? When you're done working, do you want to haul or cart around an oxygen cart? Do you want to have like titanium hips and shit? If that happens, I'd rather it happened with everything I've done now, and I need it. Okay. But if I can prevent that, then I'm going to try. So the whole thing is go back to meat and potatoes. Keep it simple, right? Eat your leafy greens, eat shit that comes out the ground, drink a lot of water. And I don't believe in that 8 cups because that eight, if you read the literature on that whole 8 cups horse shit, it was by a guy who just pulled it out of his fucking ass.
Yeah, it's
Gotta go by
just
your
you
body weight.
literally drink until you're not thirsty anymore.
Yeah,
That's
you
how
can
much water
actually
you
get
need.
what they call a condition called hyponatremia, where you can actually do a dry drowning. You can overflood your lungs, and you can actually deplete your electrolytes, your salt levels,
Right.
and can make your brain shut down. So these people that are, oh, I've got to drink 5 of these. No, you don't. I drink when I'm thirsty. I usually try to drink 60 ounces a day. I don't get crazy. I mean, I'll sweat that out when I'm running. I just go how I feel. There are days I don't drink water at all. I mean, I may have coffee, and that's not a good thing. I love my coffee in the morning. I'm never getting up in the dark roads. Fuck that. That being said, you got to just be common sense and take it easy. Don't be on either end of the pendulum. Be in the middle. You know, I would say minimum start out. Try to drink 15 to 20 ounces of water a day. If you start out, just try it. Try 10 out. People go, oh, that's nothing. Good for you, Mister Fucking drink 100 ounces. Start out with 10 ounces. If you drink 2 cups of water a day, you know what? You're building the foundation to progress, and that's what this life's about. Baby steps. You got to stay encouraged. If you start trying to tackle shit and you're not ready, you haven't done the prep work, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? Fuck this shit. I'm out of here. I'm gonna go back, and you're gonna go deeper into the abyss.
Right.
So I say, if you drink water, I mean, if you drink juices and sodas, maybe you supplement one of your meals with water. Just start small. That's all. And that builds encouragement. You tell people you're going to die, do this. People are not receptive. We're human beings. It takes us time to get to I don't know anybody who can sit there and go, I did all the effective changes
In one
as
day.
prescribed.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
No way. It takes too long.
Oh.
It's just you cannot just fundamentally change yourself in that level of an
body
extreme that
your
lasts.
body will rebel, exactly. And your body will tell you, I don't want this. So shit, I'm drinking a goddamn what do you call it, screwdriver. That's my reward. When I run, I come home, I take my hot shower to the point where almost I'm gonna burn myself, but let those muscles relax, and then I come out and I have my screwdriver and I go to bed. People go, well, I should do what works for you. You better reward yourself for every obstacle you achieve or every goal you exceed or you meet. You got to reward yourself. So my thing is, I run and I make myself have a little wine or I have a drink, a little chocolate, and that's that. But I deny myself all day. I have for breakfast I have yogurt and granola, or I have a hard-boiled egg. That's a good source of protein. For lunch, I always try to mix in veggies. Steamed veggies or a salad with a protein. I've had Chinese food this week, Ain't the end of the world. I like some taste. I have some boneless spare rib. You want egg roll or drink? Maybe I have an egg roll. The point is, I used to eat Chinese food every fucking day. And that's what was it's all about moderation. You're like the Italians, man. You don't see a fat Italian in Italy. You see a fat Italians in America.
Right.
Because Western culture is like eat till your stomach is fucking about to shut the fuck down. And Europe, they get it. I'm not a European on a lot of other issues, but when it comes to fucking diet, they got it figured out. You eat, and when you feel good, you stop. That's it. And you eat slow, and you enjoy what you're eating. It's not shoveling food in your mouth. And I tell my oldest boy this, when you're eating, because my wife makes everything from scratch, when you eat, enjoy it. Chew everything till it's like mush, swallow, breathe, talk to your family. Not, I'm done. And that's the problem we have as Americans. We done, and our brain doesn't have time to secrete the signal to say we're full, and we pile on 2 more plates, and then we're in bad shape. And you don't want to do that. You actually stress your body when you shovel food. You actually distress your body where your body goes into panic mode. It's a bad thing. It's a violent act. I mean, you can read AMA journals on eating and eating like without inhaling, as we say, or inhaling your food. It's not a good thing. So fast food is really, as they say in the Bible Belt, it's the devil's work.
The devil's work.
tonight on the way home, I actually picked up 2 junior cheeseburgers, bacon cheeseburgers from Wendy's, and a lemonade, a small one. I had one, I was full, and I gave my son. I don't get fries. I haven't had fries. I mean, if I have fries, I'll take some of theirs, but this is a whole different sea change. I used to go to, I'll tell you, I was like Artie on Stern. I would order a meal, and then I would order 2 little cheeseburgers to eat while I drove, so when I got home, I could have the meal. I was like incorrigible. So I've been there. So I used to order a meal, and then I would order other shit to eat until I could eat my real food. So you're
Jeez.
talking 7, 8,000. I mean, the back of my seat was all white bags, brown bags. So, don't ever think that you're so far gone that you can't turn it around. And, I hated myself eating it. I hated myself ordering it, hated myself after the fact. And then I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm tired of hating myself, man. And so, if I go to Wendy's now, I can say I want chili. If I go to McDonald's, I usually just get my favorite is their Southwest grilled chicken salad with no dressing. And then at home, I have Russian dressing that I add, or I'll use some Paul Newman's honey mustard. And these changes, it takes time to get to that point where the food doesn't have power of it. And once you achieve that, you're fucking golden. Will you ever now and then want to have sample? Absolutely. We're human beings, and I'm enjoying this fucking life. That being said, when you're first starting out, there will be sacrifice and things you will have to forego. But long term, once you get to your goal weight and you start coming over that hill, then you kind of reintroduce some things that you liked. And you know what? You can have smaller quantities and you can still feel satiated and not feel like you're deprived. Because if you feel deprived, none of this shit's going to work. So when these people say, oh, I'm off of carbs, I'm not off of carbs. I have carbs.
I mean, you need carbs. I mean, that's the thing is, it's just like saying, or the opposite, where it's like, well, I'm not eating fat, or I'm not eating sugar. It's like, well, you need that stuff. You have to have it. You just can't have it in the massive bucket load quantities that you used to have.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm gonna hit the bed, my friend. We can do a follow up if any of your viewers, have any questions. I'll be more than willing to make myself available, and I'm just glad you had me on.
Awesome.
Honestly.
Well, I mean, this is I've been definitely jonesing to have this interview with you, and an incredible story. The massive amount of weight that you've lost, and doing it in the way that you have, where you haven't.
Yes, some photos too.
Yes, I mean, you haven't. It hasn't been done through surgery, and you haven't gone on any kind of crazy television shows. I mean, you did it.
Nope.
With the way that needed to be done. So, thank you for your time. Obviously, if anybody's got any questions, comments, please put them down below. And Enrique, again, thank you very much for all your time tonight, and for hopefully providing some potentially life-saving information for people out there who are struggling with the same thing.
You got it, brother. Thanks for having me.